I feel like I'm always on the move now. We're gonna go to another city.
We are in Las Vegas for a huge toy hunt. 8 stores in one day and some amazing finds.
So let's go. Welcome back to the journey. And if you're new, I'm collecting the entire Star Wars Kenner line made from 1977 to 1985, and I started from scratch. So if you want to know what that means, go back and watch episode 1 and catch up until you get here. I'll be waiting right here after you catch up. Okay, so do me a favor. Look up vintage toy shops in Las Vegas on your phone, because today you're gonna follow along to exactly where I go. And there are about 8 stores that I've mapped out that we're gonna try to go to. But as Yoda said, do or do not. There is no try. So let's get back on a plane and let's go to Las Vegas.
So our first stop is a place called Rogue Toys. They have 3 locations in Vegas, and we're gonna try to hit all 3 of them today. They've been featured on TV on the hit show Pawn Stars, and besides the 3 stores in Vegas, there is their Portland, Oregon store and a store in Salt Lake City, Utah. The one we're gonna hit first is the one in downtown Vegas, and yes, across the street is a wedding chapel in case like turns to love, and there is plenty to love in this store. And when stepping inside stores like this, you are instantly taken back to your childhood with all the vintage goodness that they have in here. Something for everybody, but you know exactly what I'm looking for, Star Wars vintage, and they had a great selection. I came in here before in an earlier episode and got a very nice 1983 Minton card Lumet, and today we asked them if we could see a few loose Ahsoka action figures, especially the original TVC 102 figure. The carded figure is very expensive online, and the loose one is no exception, and this one was priced at $190. And although I would love to have this one day loose or carded, if I'm gonna spend that much today, it's gonna be on vintage items. And their vintage selection is great. Some hard to find items like this blue snaggletooth selling for $650. They have some vintage carded items and a boxed and baggied Emperor. And although it's not vintage, this item did catch my eye. The carded Ahsoka Tano Mission Fleet action figure. But I'm starting to think about buying 2, one in the box and one that I can collect loose. So I picked them both up. Rogue Toys is like a legit toy museum, and after you're done shopping, it's definitely gonna turn into browsing, as I saw items I have never seen in person before. So with our 2 Ahsokas in hand, we looked across the street, and what did we see? A familiar sight. If you have ever watched the History Channel series Pawn Stars, you know what I'm talking about. It's a reality show about a family running a pawn shop in Vegas, but the things that come through that shop are amazing. And this is the TV show where somebody famously brought in the prototype rocket-firing Boba Fett. It didn't sell here, but later it got sold at auction for around $200,000. What a grail item. So we decided to grace the halls of the shop to see if we could find any Star Wars vintage goodness here. And although they had a variety of, well, everything, and super rare items at that, the modern Star Wars selection wasn't very impressive, and their Star Wars items, even though there were several, they weren't in the best condition, and most of them weren't complete. The shop was packed, and if you're at Rogue Toys across the street, you have to come here and check it out. You never know what you may find in this pawn shop. And looking on our map, the next store that's close by is Toy Shack, located on Fremont Street in Las Vegas. Now, this is a little more lively area of Vegas, so going here won't be out of your way if you intend to do some other activities. And they've been featured on Pawn Stars too, as the owner is a Vegas toy expert. We got the full tour by an employee who said that there are 2 toys in there that we had to see. One was a radioactive board game that actually had radioactive substances in them. Okay, For a cool $10,000, it could be yours. Hazmat suit not included. And the other was a screen-used helmet prop from The Empire Strikes Back, where Luke goes into the cave for his Jedi training and faces Vader. For a mere $7,000, we could have had that. Looking around this store is a definite must. It's like a toy museum for sure. Many aisles of things to see. And no matter what line of toys you collect, what company you collect from, it's all here. And if I would have looked closer inside this case, I probably would have put an offer for the Soundwave vintage Transformers action figure. But lucky I didn't, because I do have a Star Wars collection to finish. Their Star Wars selection is huge, and just when I thought that they ran out of aisles, I ran into another section of Star Wars. If the everyday store pegs only looked like this. It's actually a lot of fun to be around so many Star Wars items that I have never seen before, but you know what I'm really looking for. Where is the vintage Star Wars? And they had a whole glass case full of them. A pretty good selection of figures, vehicles, but the thing that really threw me off was the pairing of their accessories to the figures. Like this Bespin Luke with a green saber instead of a yellow one, and this AT-AT driver with a Bespin blaster. The OCD collector in me wanted to ask the attendant if I could open the case and curate the layout for them, but I was a little bit polite and I didn't do that. So even though there was plenty in that store to look at, there was no vintage items that caught my eye. But talking to another vintage collector, they told me to go right next door to a sports card shop called Ultimate Sports Cards. So I stopped in, and this place is also featured on Pawn Stars. At this point, I'm guessing they all are. It's a very nice sports card and sports memorabilia store, but we are looking for Star Wars vintage, especially vintage Topps cards. And if you watch my recent past episodes, Mrs. Padawan started me down the path of collecting these when she bought me a complete set of the Series 2 1977 Topps cards. And I picked up a complete set of Return of the Jedi cards and Series 3 of the Empire Strikes Back cards at Star Wars Celebration. So I'm really looking for Series 1, the blue border cards that were made in 1977. They didn't have those, unfortunately, but they did have the Empire Strikes Back cards, Series 1 and Series 2. Now the Empire Strikes Back cards came in only a 3-series set, as opposed to the 5-series set that A New Hope came in. So we excitedly bought both sets that they had, and they were selling for $50 each. So we offered the seller $80 cash for it, and we landed at $85 for both sets. And often, if you pay in cash, you can get better deals. So looking on the map was another shop nearby that a lot of people told me to visit, Big Bang Toys, located on Sahara Avenue in Las Vegas. Before, people said that it was a small shop with a small inventory, but looking at it now, it's an amazing shop with so much variety. And obviously, we're looking for Star Wars vintage, but we're also Ahsoka fans, and we spotted a few Ahsoka items. One was an Ahsoka Funko Pop 464, and I was trying to find my spreadsheet as I was shopping because I was confused as to what pops I needed, and I actually had this one already. So from now on, before I go out of town on toy hunts, I'm gonna have to have a mobile sheet that I can reference anytime during my hunt. But for now, when I hit 3,000 subs, besides the 80 grade Sam person that I'm giving away, I'm going to be giving away this Ahsoka to a lucky viewer, so stay tuned for that. I also found this Ahsoka TVC 202. Now, I have a carded TVC 202 at home already, and one that I got autographed by Ashley Eckstein, but I found one with some dings on it and asked the seller if I can have that for $10, and they said yes. So I'm going to take this home and open it to have it for a loose display. So I bought Padawan Jr. a Grogu backpack when I went to the ICCC, but I wanted to get an Ahsoka backpack to hang on the Ahsoka wall, so I found this beautiful backpack as well, and I asked if I can get that for $75, so we made a deal for that as well. It's a great backpack, and yes, it's for the Padawan Jr., but if they don't like it, it's secretly going to end up in my collection for sure. Looking at their shelves and displays, you are going to find so many pieces that takes you back to nostalgia lane, and they do have an excellent collection of vintage on their shelves of all toy lines, and some that I really wanted to get just to get that nostalgia on. But we're here for Star Wars vintage, and looking at their collection, if I were starting my collection from scratch, I would have definitely loved coming here, as they had some great items for sale at great prices. Not necessarily the most mint items for grading, but for loose display cases, this is definitely a toy shop to check out if you want some examples and don't want to break the bank. So with our loot in hand, we cashed out and added that to the stash. Our next stop is located right next to Big Bang Toys. It's our second Rogue Toy Shop, and this one is on Rainbow Boulevard in Las Vegas. Walking into the store is like taking a time warp back to your childhood and toy stores of yesteryear. It's like a toy museum, and some of the items that made my jaw drop was a vintage Hot Wheels Cougar car selling for $135. Yeah, that makes me wish I kept all of my Hot Wheels from my childhood. So I picked up one car for the Padawan youngling at home. It's a 50-cent car, but who knows, it may be worth $100 in maybe 100 years. And another one was this graded GoBots display. I used to have GoBots when I was a kid, and at first I thought that this graded set was selling for $9.99, but yeah, it's a cool $999.99. Expensive, but a beautiful piece nonetheless. Not only are the pieces to buy amazing, but the people who work and own Rogue Toys are amazing as well. And I saw this item out of the corner of my eye. And like I said earlier, I'm an in-the-box collector. But when I see items in boxes that are damaged or messed up, especially if they are Ahsoka items, I'm gonna buy them specifically to open and display loose next to my boxed items. This is the 2016 Ahsoka Tano Black Series Phase 3 unnumbered Clone Wars figure. It was a Walmart exclusive. I asked for it for $10 and we made that deal. It's missing 3 of her sabers and her cloth goods skirt has some wear on it, and I probably could have got it for $3 because we're gonna have to somehow get those other sabers if we ever can. But again, we're here for vintage, and vintage they do have. We did find one figure that we don't have yet, and it's in great condition. It's the 1983 Rebel Commando, and this figure made my top worst figure list at number 3. He looks like Zap from the early 80s G.I. Joe line, in my opinion. And even though this figure is very accurate to how the Return of the Jedi movie Commandos looked, this figure comes with his unique beige and very fragile rifle accessory, and only this figure used this accessory. And you have to be very careful handling and storing this accessory because the plastic strap often breaks. This rifle has 7 variants to the mold, so to find out which variant you have, go to the Imperial Gunnery and look under rifles. It takes a while to scroll down and find, but it's there, and I have variant 1A. There are no major variants of this figure besides different country of origins and stamp placements. I have the Smile Factory variant made in Hong Kong with the Hong Kong stamp. The second variant is the Smile Macau version with no country of origin stamp. And the third is the Cater Factory made in China with the China stamp. The Rebel Commando was first available in 1983 on the Return of the Jedi 65 card backs. And the things to look out for when buying a loose version of this is just the basic paint wear on the painted areas of the headpiece, especially the tan brim, the backpack, and belt, the face paint and the eyebrows, and of course the shoes. It retailed in 1983 for $2.99, but today we picked this up for an even $25. And it's a very nice figure. No real paint loss at all, but there's just some slight discoloration and fading in the torso and legs. So with this figure, the Hot Wheels car, and the loose unnumbered Black Series Ahsoka, we are done. But we have one more Rogue Toy store to visit, and this one is on Eastern Avenue in Las Vegas. This store is full of items that take you back to your childhood. Some items like this Death Star playset that I've never seen in person outside the box. They have a great selection of vintage Star Wars items, and although no figures caught my eye, they did have some items that made me say, wow, like this replica Darth Vader saber and this C-3PO backplate. But I also started thinking about my childhood figures at home. Right now, I'm keeping them inside a wooden box, but I'd like to get a better box for them. And what better box to get than one that I've wanted since I was a kid, a Darth Vader collector's case. Now, the ones that they have in the store aren't mint by any means, and I don't want to break the bank by getting one that's grade-worthy. This case is gonna be meant to open and close, and just like my childhood figures, it's meant to be touched and played with. So I snagged this one for $25. And a good thing about buying from Rogue Toys is that they have a loyalty plan there for customers, so we use those at the stores all day. And if you show your receipt from a different Rogue Toy store, you get $5 off your purchase, which we took advantage of as well. So we saved some money on all of our buys today. And right next door was a comic book shop. alternate reality comic shop. They've been in business since 1995, and the owner is super cool and super knowledgeable. You can tell they love their jobs, and the clientele they have in there are super cool as well. They have a great selection of comics, and they do have a great selection of Star Wars comics and books as well. And even though we didn't buy anything, I wanted to give a shout out to Alternate Reality Comics in case you wanted to do this similar Vegas run that I did. Now, there are a ton of other toy shops that I didn't get a chance to go to in Vegas, and that's just a testament of how much Vegas loves their toys, both vintage and modern. So I'm gonna have to come back one day and finish off this run and revisit these stores to say hi to some friends that I've made. So here is the haul from our Vegas run, and let's mark off some of these items from our vintage run. We're gonna mark off the Empire Strikes Back Top Series 1 and 2 for $85, so we're gonna mark each of them for $42.50 each. And this completes our Empire Strikes Back Tops run. We got the Darth Vader case that we are happy to finally place our childhood collection in, and finally get to place this on our shelf to display with pride. And one day, I would love to start collecting the collector's cases and go on that run one day, as there are so many beautiful collector cases made by Kenner. And let's finally mark off the Rebel Commando that we got for a very respectable $25. And let's place this in our collector display case. And we're gonna be giving away a case like I have soon, so stay tuned for that announcement.
So thanks for going on this journey with me to Las Vegas. And on our next trip, we're gonna go to one of the biggest toy stores in Southern California, Frank and Sons. So join me for that. It is going to be awesome. And if you found this video interesting, please hit that like button. It does support the channel. And please visit the links in my descriptions where you can find things that you need for your collecting journey, merch stores, and if you click and buy using my links, it does support the channel, so thank you for that as well. And if you want to see more Star Wars collecting content from me, please consider subscribing. And also, hitting that notification bell so you know when videos go live. I post videos every Sunday with bonus content sometimes on Wednesday. And remember, subscribing is free and it does support the channel. And as always, my friends, thank you, and I will see you next time.
If you're new to the channel, check out the welcome video, or just check out the next episode. And please subscribe if you want to follow the journey. And remember, there is no shame in being a Padawan.